Frontel Nigeria Limited and Heritage Bank PLC are embroiled in a legal battle over a controversial 200 million naira loan arrangement. Beginning in 2008, Frontel, under the direction of Samsidin Owonifari, accused Heritage Bank, previously called Spring Bank, of incorrectly categorizing the business as a debtor and debiting its accounts without the required authority. Now, from West Africa's economic capital, Lagos, I'm being joined by Oladipo Ajayi, Head, Fixed Income and FX, Chapel Hill, Denham, Securities Limited, and he will be helping us shed light on this. Thank you so much, Oladipo, for joining us.
Thank you very much, Liko, for having me on.
So, first, what's your take on the liquidation of Heritage Bank by the CBN?
Well, I think it's long overdue because it's not something that would have caught anyone unaware. A lot of people are so much aware that the bank is actually an ailing bank. But my concern is why the regulator waited that long before they actually made pronouncement on the bank and the aftermath effect on the depositor. That's my key concern. But that decision was taken. Of course, it's something that we know that such decision will be taken at the time. But why we waited that long is why is still the question that needs to be answered.
Well, as we know it, the bank actually changed management recently, yet its bad loans persisted. Now, does this indicate poor leadership or just a case of not implementing proper rules when it comes to customer protocols?
Well, I think there's something that's very key in Nigerian environment, and that's the fact that servicing of loans, and I think is something that the regulator needs to actually tighten more, because we've seen a situation whereby most time people will take loan from banks and fail to actually make do with their obligations to the bank, and at the end of the day, such risk assets will now be posted on the AMCON, and I think that now looks like the end goal for most borrowers from banks. So I think on the part of the bank, I think there's shortfall on the part of bank because I think they need to have actually tightened their risk management framework very well. Because these are some of the things that would have led to the situation where they found themselves. And it's not something that happened overnight. It's something that will build up over time. You would have seen your NPL rising, and the more you see the NPL rising aggressively, you need to actually tighten up so that you'll be able to actually be within the guideline. And like I said earlier on, that I think the regulator also waited too long before they actually make a call, because the regulator should be aware of the NPL of the bank, and when you see that the NPL is at alarming levels, of course, that should have required immediate action. And I think they failed to do that. So on the part of the bank actually failed, and I also feel on the part of the borrower of the fund, so they actually failed on their part as well.
All right, so now we see that the NDIC has stepped in and commenced actions. But do you think that will be enough to ease the fears of customers who still have their funds trapped within the bank?
Of course, that is not totally enough to actually ease the fear, because NDIC has come to say that depositors that has 5 million and below get full refund. And if you have more than 5 million, it simply means that you get 5 million, but you now rank the remaining for sharing after the liquidation of the asset of the company. And when you're now looking at the company that's actually suffering, it simply means that the bank asset is lower than its liability. At the end of the day, I'm not sure they'll be able to actually get cover the remaining depositors fund. So what it means that that would not be shared pro rata based on the total pending repayment to depositors. So I think it's not something that most people want to hear. There are people that has over 500 million sitting in that bank. So it simply means that they will get 5 million, and they will now rank pro rata for the remaining amount that's available for sharing. So at the end of the day, someone like that may not get up to like 100 million at the end of the day. And I think that's actually very pathetic, and it's not something that should be happening in our banking sector.
So that actually brings me to the next question. When we continue to have situations like this and people lose their funds, the way that the CBN has gone around revealing this particular situation with Heritage Bank, do you think that such would boost confidence in Nigerian banks? We could mention a couple of first-generation banks, modern banks that started with so much strength and so much pomp, but now have gone under. And we still have some traditional banks that are still operating up to now. So if this trend continues, how do you think that will pan out in terms of confidence in the mind of customers who might still want to continue to partner or work or keep their monies in these banks?
I think that's one of the reasons why the current CBN governor has been very, very strict on his policies on banks, and he has ensured that full compliance. And also another reason why they have actually requested banks to actually improve their capital base. And even at the time, a lot of people were thinking they should have allowed retaining to actually count as part of the capital base. But he actually disapproved that and felt that what they all need is fresh capital. Does that mean that the Nigerian banking system is not strong? No, I think the Nigerian banking system is very strong. And like I mentioned earlier on, it's the issue of heritage is not something that happened today. A lot of people should have been aware of what is happening within that bank. And when you see a bank that has not published its financial for years, of course, it's telling you a story, except you don't want to actually listen to the story that that is telling you. So I think that what we are doing, that you will actually dampen the confidence of the depositor and people actually patronizing banking system. But I think that what needs to be done is what the central bank is currently doing to further beef up that capability of banks to actually meet the obligation as I went you, and also to actually retain the confidence in the banking system. On the back of this, there were other rumors that some other banks will actually be affected as well. But immediately the central bank came out to actually debunk that and also actually speak to that regard. And what that means is that it has helped to actually reinforce that confidence in the banking sector. So I think it will happen, but I like the way the central bank is actually going about it to actually help retain confidence.
Okay, so let's now talk about Frontel Nigeria Limited and Heritage Bank. There's a 200 million naira loan facility that is in dispute right now. A legal tussle has emerged as a result of this. What do you think would be happening to this particular company, Frontel Nigeria Limited? Do you think that the customers will be able to get their monies? Do you think that they will be able to plead a case in courts and probably win? How do you think this would actually pan out?
Well, this particular company has been to a trial court, and they've been to the appeal court, and in both situations they actually won the case. And what's so alarming is that they first instituted a case against Springbank far back at 2009. And when you look at 2009 till today, it tells you what is happening in a legal system. Because if it takes someone over 15 years to actually get judgment in all these little cases, I don't think is something that anyone needs to actually applaud. And so Frontel has been back-to-back going to court around this case. And at the end of the day, they've gotten judgment. And it was the sum of 200 million was awarded in their favor. But as we speak now, nothing has been done in that regard. So what it simply means is that it could simply mean that Frontier will have to now rank among other depositors taking redress around the company. So it simply means that Frontier will also now queue behind depositor to see if there's any other balance remaining that they can use to actually pay down on the obligation. So I think it's something they can actually pursue, but that they will get full refund is where my concern lies.
But interestingly, Oladipo, according to what we know, the FCC and AMCON had been involved in this particular case, but along the line, they actually pulled out. So what does that tell you? Does that indict the bank or the customer in question?
I think the pulling out of EFCC and Malcolm shows that that actually deducted the bank because it simply means because the man was listed as part of the creditors of the company and of the bank, and to a great extent that his name was published on the daily newspaper, and he was arrested by EFCC. But after more interrogation and the man pleading his case, it was crystal clear that the man is actually right, and as a result of that, EFCC actually backed out on the case, and AMCO also backed out the case. And also considering that the man won both in the trial court and also at the appeal court, is a clear sign that the man to a great extent is actually justified. Because the case is not very difficult to plead, Lekon. You said you credited my account so today, and immediately the fund actually left my account. The fund never left my account to any account that's related to me. I'd never give any instruction for you to transfer the fund to any other account related to me. But yet you book that as a loan in my book, and you keep using that opportunity to actually wipe my account anytime there's any inflow in my account. Of course, it's not very difficult for anyone to actually plead before a court because there will be credible evidence that shows this. So I think that the man is actually looks justified in his action, and I think one way or the other, based on what the legal advisor is really saying, that they are going to take NDIC to court over this, and they are going to increase from 200 million to 300 million compensation in that regard. So let's see how it pan out, because it simply means that the case is not between them and the bank, that the case is now between the Frontel and now NDIC, who is now the liquidator of the bank.
Well, I tell you, this is one story that N200 is going to stay on to see how it will eventually pan out. And we want to see if there will be other customers that will be coming up to indict Heritage Bank in this particular liquidation case. But then Oladipo Ajayi, head of Fixed Income and FX, Chapel Hill, Denham, Securities Limited. Thank you so much for your time on the show.
You're welcome, bro.